Before we begin, I want you to look around, really look. The device you're holding, the screen you're watching, the cloud that stores your memories, the satellites whispering in orbit, the artificial intelligence passing your words, all of them, all of it, flows through one point. One company. One name. Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company. You may not know it. You may never have seen a single commercial or heard a single jingle, but it knows you because it shapes the world you live in every single day. This is not a tech stock. This is not a play or a pick. This is the backbone of the digital age, a quiet colossus standing on an island smaller than the state of Indiana, wielding power that dwarfs nations, redirects trade routes, and keeps the dreams of Silicon Valley alive. It is the factory behind your phone, the forge behind your electric car, the silent partner to the loudest brands in the world. Without Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, there is no Apple, no NVIDIA, no data center, no artificial intelligence. There is, quite simply, no future. And yet beneath all that brilliance, there is danger. Because the company lives in a fragile paradise, balanced delicately between the ambitions of China, the dependencies of the West, and the physics of what comes next. This is a story of supremacy and risk, of engineering miracles and military tension, of investments that could reshape your portfolio or vanish in the smoke of geopolitics. So today, we are going to peel back the layers, not with bullet points or hype, but with reverence. We will explore its strengths, unearth its weaknesses, scan the horizon for opportunities, and stare down its most pressing threats. This is Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company. And this is what happens when the future depends on one company. Let us talk now, if we may, about strength, not the kind found in muscle or steel, but the quiet, persistent strength of mastery. Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company stands not merely as a firm, but as the foundation stone upon which the modern digital world has been built. This is a company whose very name commands attention in boardrooms and war rooms alike. It is the silent architect behind the processing power in your pocket, your laptop, your car, and increasingly in the artificial minds that learn faster than any human ever could. What makes Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company so formidably strong begins with a principle so simple it often goes unnoticed: focus. While the rest of the semiconductor industry split its energies between designing chips and manufacturing them, Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company did not. It chose the path of pure fabrication. It decided decades ago that its mission would be to manufacture chips, only that, and to do it better than anyone else on Earth. In doing so, it became the first true foundry, a kind of technological forge where the designs of others are transmuted into silicon reality. That focus has granted it a singular edge. The company does not compete with its clients because it does not design chips. It builds them. And because it builds them for everyone, from the most secretive designers of cutting-edge artificial intelligence processors to the most demanding consumer electronics giants. Its influence is ubiquitous, yet oddly invisible to the average citizen. Consider the scale. Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company produces more advanced semiconductors than any other entity on the planet. Its facilities, often referred to as fabrication plants or fabs, are among the most sophisticated human-made structures ever constructed. Inside these clean rooms, where even a stray speck of dust could render a chip worthless, Machines operate at the atomic level, etching transistors just a few nanometers across. For context, a nanometer is 1/1000th of a meter, so small that thousands of these transistors could fit within the width of a human hair. The company is not just operating at the frontier of physics, it is living there. At the time of speaking, Taiwan Semiconductor manufacturing company is mass-producing chips using a 3-nanometer process, an engineering marvel that requires extraordinary precision. Every advance in this field is exponentially harder than the last, yet the company moves forward with the inevitability of a glacier-slow, deliberate, unstoppable. And even as the world marvels at 3-nanometer chips, the engineers in Taiwan are already preparing the 2-nanometer generation. And beyond that, the future itself. But strength lies not only in technology. It lies also in trust. The world's most powerful technology companies, those that design the processors inside your smartphones, your graphics cards, your supercomputers, entrust their blueprints to Taiwan Semiconductor manufacturing company, Apple. For instance, relies so heavily on this one manufacturer that the fate of its product launches rests on the schedules set in Hsinchu. The same is true for companies like Advanced Micro Devices, whose rise in the processor market would not have been possible without the consistent excellence of their Taiwanese partner. This trust is hard-earned. It comes from decades of reliable delivery, of staying on the bleeding edge without bleeding out, of safeguarding intellectual property with the reverence of a priest guarding relics. Taiwan Semiconductor manufacturing company is, in many respects, the Switzerland of the semiconductor world, neutral, disciplined, respected. And then there is the matter of scale. The company's production capacity is vast billions of chips each year. Its gross margins, those sacred numbers that separate commodity players from crown jewels, are among the highest in the entire technology sector. Why? Because its customers are not paying for silicon. They are paying for certainty. For the guarantee that the chip they designed will be made, on time, at scale, at levels of precision only the gods of engineering can comprehend. That kind of reputation is not purchased. It is built, year by painstaking year. Let us not forget the geographic strength, oddly enough, of being concentrated in Taiwan. Though this location presents certain geopolitical risks matters we shall discuss in time, it has also enabled an unparalleled density of engineering talent, supplier networks, and institutional knowledge. To attempt to replicate what Taiwan Semiconductor manufacturing company has built in Taiwan would be to try recreating the Renaissance in a different century. It is not merely a matter of money. It is a matter of culture, of habit, of deeply embedded expertise passed from mentor to pupil, etched not in silicon, but in the human minds that shape it. And now, with its expansion into new continents, building new fabrication plants in the deserts of Arizona and the highlands of Japan, it is exporting that strength, not diluting it. These are not vanity projects. They are insurance policies for the free world's continued access to advanced computation. They are declarations that this company will not rest upon a throne, but will march outward like a Roman legion, planting its standards in new soil. In every sense, technological, operational, financial, and strategic, Taiwan Semiconductor manufacturing company embodies strength. It is the beating heart of the digital age. And like any true heart, its power lies in relentless rhythm, invisible to most, but essential to all. And now, With the same depth and weight, we turn our gaze to the weaknesses of Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company. Because even the mightiest citadel casts a shadow, and even the strongest foundations contain fractures quiet, often hidden, but real nonetheless. For all its technical brilliance and commercial dominance, Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company stands, paradoxically, on ground that is both sacred and fragile. The first and most glaring vulnerability is not of its own making, but of its geography. The company is rooted in Taiwan, a small island cradled against the southeastern coast of China, a nation that views Taiwan not as a neighbor, but as a runaway province. This is not mere political posturing. It is a simmering conflict that threatens to boil over with the passage of time or the misstep of a single actor. In this context, Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company becomes more than a business. It becomes a pawn, or worse, a prize. The entire world's digital infrastructure leans, perhaps too heavily, on an enterprise located in a region where peace is not guaranteed and the machinery of global politics is perilously out of tune. But let us not place all blame on geopolitics. There are weaknesses, too, that lie within the company's own structure. Chief among them is its concentration of knowledge and capacity. Though Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company is expanding abroad, the vast majority of its fabrication, its talent, its process control, its most advanced technologies remain locked in Taiwan. The new factories in the United States and Japan are impressive on paper, but in practice they remain years behind the technological frontier. They are not building 3-nanometer chips. Not yet, and perhaps not for some time. Because what Taiwan has is not just factories, it has a culture, a learned rhythm, a generational expertise that cannot be boxed up and shipped overseas like a container of machines. This leads us to the next great vulnerability: human capital. The engineers, scientists, and technicians who make Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company what it is are highly trained, deeply committed, and aging. The company's brutal work culture is the stuff of whispered legend among those who pass through its doors. Long hours, relentless pressure, a culture of perfectionism that produces brilliance but burns out brilliance just as easily. Recruiting the next generation of engineers is proving more difficult, especially in new markets where the work-life balance expectations are different. In the United States, it is not so simple to ask a graduate to sacrifice family, sleep, and personal ambition at the altar of a chip yield. Then there is the question of cost. As transistors shrink, the price of making them skyrockets. Each new generation of fabrication, each leap from 7 to 5 to 3 to 2 nanometers demands not only more money, but more magic. Equipment costs balloon into the billions. Every misstep risks wastage not in the thousands, but in the tens of millions. The return on investment is not immediate. It is speculative, and the timeline for recovery stretches years into the future. Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company can shoulder this burden now, but should margins narrow or demand falter, it will find itself tethered to a business model that cannot easily downshift. Moreover, it faces an uncomfortable truth. Its customers are also its future competitors. Companies like Apple, long dependent on Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, are investing in their own fabrication research. Others, like Intel and Samsung, have vowed to reclaim lost ground and regain control of their manufacturing destiny. This is not betrayal, it is survival instinct. And it means that Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, while still at the top, must forever watch its back. Because its clients do not love it, they need it. And need is a dangerous foundation for loyalty. Let us speak also of innovation, because here lies a paradox. Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company is a master of execution, a titan of refinement. But it is not an inventor. It does not design chips. It does not create new architectures. It does not dream. It builds the dreams of others. This leaves it forever dependent on the imaginations of its clients. If the visionaries stop dreaming or shift those dreams to other foundries, Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company is left holding a treasure chest with no map to fill it. Lastly, we must address the fragility of scale. The very thing that makes Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company a behemoth, its immense volume, its massive capital expenditures, its tight coordination, also makes it vulnerable to shock. A power outage, a cyber attack, a trade embargo, even a misaligned chemical shipment, any of these can disrupt a line of production worth hundreds of millions of dollars per day. It is a machine of vast complexity, and like any such machine, its tolerance for failure is measured not in inches, but in atoms. The opportunities. Now we turn our eyes from the vulnerabilities of the present to the golden horizon of what could be. Because if weakness is the shadow, opportunity is the sunlight breaking through. And for Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, the future is radiant with possibility, provided it's bold enough to reach for it. The first and most tantalizing opportunity for Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company lies not in shrinking its technology, but in expanding its geography. For too long, its crown jewels, the most advanced fabrication processes in the world, have been cloistered within the protective but precarious confines of Taiwan. But the winds are changing. Now, with fabrication plants rising in the deserts of Arizona, and soon on the soil of Japan, and possibly Europe, Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company is seeding its brilliance across continents. These new foundries, though still in their early stages, represent more than redundancy. They signal a rebirth of global trust. With them, the company positions itself as not merely a Taiwanese titan, but a planetary partner in technological sovereignty. Governments are not just asking for these factories, they are funding them, incentivizing them, begging for them, because they fear the consequences of overdependence. This brings us to another window of immense opportunity: geopolitical leverage. Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company is no longer just a supplier. It is a diplomatic asset. Its presence in a country bolsters the nation's standing in the emerging digital arms race. This opens doors that few private companies ever see: direct lines to presidents, prime ministers, and national security councils. It becomes the rare corporate entity that can play a role not just in economic policy, but in grand strategy. And with that power comes influence, the opportunity to shape standards, control timelines, and negotiate from a position of unprecedented strength. Then there is artificial intelligence, the great engine of the 21st century's second act. Every major leap in artificial intelligence, from language models to autonomous vehicles to predictive medicine, relies on vast amounts of computation. And computation, at its root, is silicon. The world's hunger for artificial intelligence hardware will not subside. It will only grow more ravenous, more specialized, more demanding. Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company is uniquely positioned to to ride that wave, not by designing the minds of tomorrow, but by forging their nervous systems. And as chip designers evolve to meet the needs of artificial intelligence, Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company stands ready to etch their visions into reality, node by node, wafer by wafer. There is also the renaissance of national industrial policy, a term once relegated to dusty textbooks, but now spoken with urgency in the halls of Washington, Brussels, Tokyo. After years of complacency, the world's powers have realized that semiconductors are not a niche concern, they are infrastructure. As vital as roads, as strategic as oil, and into this awakening Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company walks like a king. Governments are offering billions not as bribes, but as investments in survival. This is a company that could fund its expansion not merely with profits, but with public capital, provided it delivers resilience in return. But perhaps the most quietly powerful opportunity is vertical integration through partnership. Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company does not design chips, but imagine if it began forging deeper alliances with those who do. Not acquisitions, no, something subtler. Strategic entanglements, co-development programs, long-term manufacturing exclusivity in exchange for joint research on novel materials, three-dimensional architectures, quantum tunneling mitigation. If Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company can become not just a manufacturer, but a co-evolver, it will tie itself to the innovation cycle at the root, not just at the bloom. Let us not forget emerging markets: Africa, Southeast Asia, South America. These regions are stepping into the digital era with ambition and energy, leapfrogging legacy infrastructure and building fresh ecosystems. They will need chips, and more than that, they will need supply sovereignty. Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company has the chance to not only serve these regions, but to build with them education, talent pipelines, fabrication support, national chip strategies. 1 billion new users, billions of new devices. This is not a niche play. This is the next frontier. And still, beyond the cities and economies, beyond the design houses and defense ministries, there is something more poetic waiting for Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, a chance to reshape its identity. It has spent decades as the unseen hand behind the screen, but now the world knows its name. The headlines carry its moves. The markets tremble at its guidance. It can step into the light not as a vendor, but as a steward, a guardian of computation, a champion of stability in a digital age that threatens to fracture. So yes, the present holds uncertainty, but the future offers a throne, one forged from silicon, seated atop trust, technology, and tenacity. All Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company must do is ascend. Ah, yes, the threats. If strength is the fortress, and opportunity the open gate to glory, then threats are the siege engines gathering on the horizon, slow at first, almost silent, but unmistakably real. And for Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, they come not just from the outside world, but from the very systems it helped create. Let us begin where every strategist begins: China. The People's Republic does not hide its intentions. It views Taiwan as part of its sovereign territory, and by extension, views Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company as an asset it must one day control. This is not rhetoric, it is a doctrine. And as tensions escalate across the Taiwan Strait, the possibility of conflict moves from the abstract into the realm of planning. War games are no longer classroom exercises. They are rehearsals. The company sits at ground zero for what could become the most significant geopolitical confrontation of the 21st century. It is both a jewel and a hostage. And in that contradiction lies its greatest existential threat. But the sword does not always swing from the east. The West, too, brings its challenges not through military might, but through strategic independence. The United States, the European Union, Japan, they have all awoken to a grim reality. They are dependent on a single company, in a single region, for the chips that run their weapons, their cars, their satellites, and their economies. And they do not like it. National security mandates are being drafted. Subsidies are being poured into domestic foundries. Rival companies are being resurrected with taxpayer dollars. Intel, long battered, is being rearmed. Samsung, ever ambitious, is expanding aggressively. These are not rivals to be dismissed. These are titans on the rebound. The global appetite for semiconductor self-sufficiency is growing. And Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company may find itself not as the supplier of choice, but as a last resort. And let us speak, too, of technology convergence, or more precisely, the walls closing in from all sides. The physics of miniaturization is reaching its asymptote. Transistors are now measured in single-digit nanometers, approaching the limits of atomic precision. With each new node, the cost to develop, build, and scale production becomes astronomical. This is no longer just engineering, it is wizardry, and the wizards are few. A single miscalculation could cost billions. A single delay could hand a competitive advantage to another player. The margin for error is vanishing. Meanwhile, new paradigms are knocking at the door. Quantum computing, neuromorphic architectures, photonics, technologies that do not merely improve on silicon, they threaten to replace it. While these innovations remain nascent, their trajectory is upward. Should a breakthrough render traditional semiconductors obsolete for key workloads, Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company could find itself holding a treasure chest full of currency the future no longer accepts. Then there is cybersecurity, the quiet war. A fabrication plant is not merely a factory. It is a vault of secrets, customer designs, proprietary processes, equipment algorithms, and material recipes. These are crown jewels not just for commercial espionage, but for state actors. A single breach, a single compromised node, could poison a supply chain, damage a reputation, or trigger an international incident. Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company must guard its digital gates as fiercely as it guards its clean rooms, because in the shadows, enemies are always watching. We must also reckon with the fragility of global supply chains. The raw materials that feed these fabrication plants, ultra-pure gases, rare earth metals, precision photolithography machines, come from all corners of the globe. A trade war, a logistics bottleneck, or a sudden embargo could cripple production not from within, but from the periphery. And as climate change brings more volatile weather, even the dependable flow of power and water can no longer be taken for granted. Remember, a chip is not made by machines alone. It is made by a choreography of hundreds of parts, each vulnerable in its own quiet way. There is also the threat of internal fatigue. Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company has been running at full sprint for decades. Its culture of excellence is legendary. The legends are carried on the backs of people, and people burn out. As competition for semiconductor talent intensifies globally, retaining the best engineers becomes a war of wallets and well-being. Should the company lose its edge in human capital, its mentors, its process gurus, its fixers in times of yield collapse, it may find its technological leadership faltering not from sabotage, but from silence. And finally, let us look in the mirror, for with great power comes scrutiny. The world's eyes are now fixed on Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company. Investors expect growth. Nations expect support. Clients expect perfection. And the media, well, the media is waiting for a stumble. One delayed note, one earnings miss, one strategic misstep, and the headlines will not say Titan stumbles. They will say Titan falls. So yes, Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company stands at the summit, but the wind at that altitude is cold and the path forward narrow. It must climb with care, guard its flanks, and keep one eye always on the storm, because make no mistake, the storm is watching it too. So is Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company worth investing in? That, dear listener, is the question that now hangs in the balance. Imagine, if you will, a cathedral not one of stone and stained glass, but one of silicon and light. A structure so vast, so intricate, that every smartphone, every self-driving car, every quantum prototype sings softly within its echo. Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company is that cathedral. It is not just a company. It is infrastructure. It is supply chain. It is the beating heart of computation in a world where everything now computes. As an investment, it stands among giants, not flashy, not loud, but colossal in weight and reach. It enjoys technological supremacy that borders on monopoly, paired with a trust network so deep, so fiercely defended, that its clients cannot leave, even when they try. Apple may one day dream of its own foundries. Intel may rise again. Samsung may chase the crown. But today, and for many tomorrows, they all bend the knee, quietly, to the company in Hsinchu. Financially, it is no mere grower of margins. It is a cultivator of cash. Year after year, billions flow into its vaults, not as charity or speculation, but as rent paid by the future for a seat at the table. Its balance sheet is pristine, its debt minimal, its cash reserves deep. In a volatile world, it is an island ironically and literally of stability. And yet, to own Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company is to own risk. Not the whimsical kind, not the slow fade of obsolescence. No, this is sharp-edged, geopolitical, knife-dancing risk. You do not just buy a stake in a company. You buy a stake in Taiwan, in the uneasy détente with China, in the thin red lines of military escalation and diplomatic miscalculation. It is an investment where the upside is guided by engineers, but the downside may be dictated by generals. So what is it then? It is the ultimate paradox, a fortress standing on a fault line, a bastion of order in a world growing more chaotic by the hour. And for the wise investor, those with the stomach for risk, the discipline to hold, the vision to see past headlines, it may well be the most important position you ever take. Yes, the future will be built on silicon. And silicon still answers to Taiwan. So invest if you dare. But know this is no mere stock. This is a lever. And when you pull it, you are not just betting on a company. You are betting on the fate of technology itself. And so, as the dust settles and the lights dim, we step back from the circuitry, the strategy, the seismic scale of it all, and return to something simple: gratitude. Thank you for watching, for listening, for leaning in. The world of investing is too often reduced to charts and chatter, but beneath it all are stories, real stories, of power, of people, of places like Taiwan. Stories like this one, where a single company, born on a small island, came to hold the keys to the modern age. If this episode gave you something to think about, something to question, something to wonder, then we've done our job. Don't forget to like, to subscribe, to share this with someone who still thinks chips come in bags and risks come only in headlines. And if you've got questions, if you want more, you know where to find us. Until next time, this has been Tech Eye Spy. Stay sharp, stay curious, and never forget, the future is closer than you think.